You are moving through heavy brush when you force your way past a cluster of branches and suddenly break the tree line. At extremely close range, you startle a wild bear. In this exact fraction of a second, your brain's amygdala floods your nervous system with adrenaline, initiating an overwhelming, involuntary panic response. Your immediate, screaming biological instinct is to turn and run. Fleeing is the single worst decision you can make. The sudden movement of a retreating biped immediately triggers a hardwired predatory chase drive within the bear's brain. You instantly transform a chance encounter into an active, lethal pursuit. This chart compares maximum escape velocities, proving evasion on foot is biomechanically impossible. An elite sprinter peaks at roughly 27 miles per hour. A grizzly bear can sustain 35 to 40 miles per hour over complex, uneven terrain. Because your human kinesthetics cannot possibly outrun this animal, physical flight is a mathematical zero. Survival relies entirely on freezing in place and quickly decoding the precise ethological markers of the bear's behavior to diagnose its psychological intent. Bears typically operate under two highly distinct motivations. The first is defensive aggression. When a bear feels its autonomy or cubs are threatened, it tries to force you to retreat. It does this by displaying signs of autonomic stress, involuntary nervous reactions like excessive salivation, jaw popping, aggressive yawning, and deep huffing. A loud, bounding bluff charge is an attempt to intimidate you, not consume you. Predatory behavior looks entirely different. It is characterized by terrifying, complete silence. A predatory bear views a human purely as a caloric resource. There are no warning vocalizations and no bluff charges. Instead, the animal locks on to the target with unbroken visual focus and utilizes slow, calculated stalking techniques to close the distance. The polar bear represents the absolute apex of this predatory drive. Because their traditional diet consists entirely of meat and blubber, they naturally view humans as a soft, easily acquired prey species. With the accelerating loss of Arctic sea ice pushing starving polar bears inland, the frequency of these strictly predatory encounters is rapidly rising. Misreading the animal's objective is fatal. If you drop to the ground and play dead during a silent predatory stalk, you are simply serving yourself as a meal. If you aggressively fight back against a loud, defensive bluff charge, the bear will escalate the violence to neutralize you. When deterrence fails and physical contact occurs, the attack relies on the synchronized deployment of two primary biological weapons. The first is the forelimb. Bears carry a massive dorsal hump of heavy muscle situated directly over their shoulders, allowing them to strike downward with staggering velocity. A single paw swipe delivers roughly 800 kilograms of force. Before the thick claws even puncture the epidermis, this massive blunt force impact induces hydrostatic shock, a rapid internal pressure wave that instantly compresses the chest cavity, frequently rupturing solid internal organs like the spleen and liver on contact. Once the victim is knocked down, the secondary weapon engages. This 3D vector diagram illustrates the sheer compressive power of the animal's jaws. A polar bear generates over 1,600 newtons of downward bite force. This instantly overwhelms the maximum structural yield limit of the human craniomaxillofacial skeleton, easily shattering the delicate bones of the face and skull upon initial impact. The true soft tissue destruction, however, comes from what happens next. The bear reflexively twists its heavy head and neck. This introduces massive lateral torque into the bite, violently expanding the clean, circular canine puncture wounds into deep, irregular lacerations that tear apart major arteries, veins, and skeletal muscle. Clinical death on the scene is rarely caused by a single swipe of the claws. It is the result of massive exsanguination, catastrophic blood loss, caused by the total mechanical failure of the human structural matrix under apex kinetic energy. Surviving the immediate kinetic violence of the attack merely concludes the first phase of the ordeal. You are immediately subjected to a hidden, secondary threat that is frequently just as lethal as the physical mauling. The oral cavities and the claws of wild bears host a diverse, highly pathogenic microbial flora. Cultured swabs from bear bite wounds consistently reveal lethal strains of bacteria, including Serratia and Pastorella. This includes both aerobic bacteria, which need oxygen to survive, and anaerobic organisms, which thrive without it. When the heavy canine teeth puncture deep into human muscle, the entry wounds quickly seal over. This traps the anaerobic bacteria inside oxygen-deprived pockets of crushed, devitalized human tissue, creating a perfect necrotic food source for the bacteria to rapidly multiply. The bear functions as an organic hypodermic needle. It inoculates this aggressive bacterial biome directly into deep fascial planes, where the human immune system struggles to reach, resulting in stubbornly high rates of tissue gangrene and systemic, life-threatening sepsis. While the body undergoes extreme physical trauma, the brain executes a drastic internal defense protocol. As the sheer violence of the event overwhelms the victim, the autonomic nervous system realizes fighting and fleeing are impossible. It initiates a profound parasympathetic shutdown known as peritraumatic dissociation. The body enters a catatonic freeze. Physical movement ceases entirely, and the human consciousness effectively detaches from the physical body, providing a merciful, subjective numbing of physical pain while the attack is happening. But there is a severe cost to this psychological defense mechanism. Unlike wild prey animals that physically shake off the massive buildup of adrenaline and cortisol after an attack, human survivors are immediately immobilized and transported to hospitals. The body never physically discharges the fight or flight energy. The nervous system becomes permanently trapped in a lupin state of high arousal. The precise biological shutdown that protected the psyche during the mauling acts as the exact catalyst for severe chronic post-traumatic stress disorder in the aftermath. Because the physiological consequences of physical contact are so catastrophic, optimal survival requires stopping the animal before it ever reaches you. And for decades, a fierce debate has raged regarding the best tool for the job: high-caliber firearms or aerosolized capsicum, commonly known as bear spray. The empirical data is highly conclusive. This bar chart visualizes multi-year studies of aggressive bear encounters. When victims deployed firearms defensively, they suffered injuries 56% of the time. When victims deployed bear spray, the injury rate plummeted to exactly 4%. Firearms require extreme fine motor skills to accurately penetrate a thick, sloping skull, moving at 35 miles per hour. A canister of bear spray requires almost no precision. It expels a massive, floating cloud of concentrated pepper juice that directly attacks the bear's highly sensitive olfactory, optic, and respiratory mucous membranes. This intense chemical sensory overload forces the animal to instantly abandon its charge. Surviving an encounter with millions of years of apex evolution requires ignoring human ego. The numbers prove that strict avoidance and chemical deterrence are the only reliable mechanisms for walking out of the woods alive.